Welcome to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Your home for the latest news from the National Lacrosse League and indoor lacrosse. Now, let's talk some lacrosse with your hosts, Jake Elliott and Evan Schemenauer.
Lacrosse fans, it's Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the Lax Class. Lacrosse Classified happening right now in your ears right here on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network. Happy Tuesday to you. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer. I don't even know if Happy Tuesday is a thing. It doesn't really matter. If it's not, I just started it, Evan. Happy Tuesday. What's going on back in Saskatoon besides bitter cold, snow, and probably a lot of grumpy Rush fans?
Actually, if you would have stuck around an extra day, you would have seen how nice the weather all of a sudden got.
Well, I'll tell you what, Evan.
Relatively speaking, it got to -5 this afternoon.
Oh, that's balmy.
Considering it was -52 this time a week ago, I'll take it.
Yeah, -52. Hey, listen, I almost did stay in Saskatoon the other day. A funny little story off the top here before we get into the program. By the way, Dan Lomas and Holden Cattoni will join us here on episode 63. We'll look forward to those two conversations and who we had coming right up here as well. But you know, I get sent my flight itinerary obviously days before I got to travel. So I look at my flights and see the times, departures, the landings, all the rest of it, and got 6:45 a.m. stuck in my head that was when I was leaving Saskatoon, looking at the flight times while I was in British Columbia. Are you following along here with what's about to happen to me, Evan? So
I think you're just lucky that Saskatoon's a small enough airport that you can get through security in 5 minutes.
Well, listen, so, you know, I go to bed, whatever it was, 2 a.m. I can never really sleep after a game, and set my alarm for 4:45, thinking that's okay. So I do this kind of half awake at 2 o'clock, and I wake up at 5:40 a.m. And I was in an absolute panic. Like, oh my God, my flight is in 65 minutes, and I begin the scramble of getting dressed and calling a cab and freaking out and trying to, you know, maybe I can get a hold of somebody at the airport and let them know I'm on my way and do all these things. I get in the cab and I say, you know, like, if you can kind of step on it here, man, I'm super late for my flight. I start looking at my WestJet app. Evan, my flight's at 8:45. Now, because I looked at it in BC, it was 6:45, being 2 hours earlier here. And then it changed when I got there, but I had it stuck in my head that my flight was at 6:45. So I went from thinking I'm going to miss my flight to being at the airport 2.5 hours early, going off in no sleep. I was so rattled. I felt, even though I didn't miss my flight, I felt like I did. You know what I mean? I went through the entire emotion of this is happening right now.
Well, I mean, I know what my worst. I've had so many bad flight experiences, between having to bribe my way out of Kiev Airport one time. I wish I was kidding. Oh no, they basically took us out of security to try and get a bribe from us because they knew what they could. But my worst experience, honestly, my first wedding, I almost missed my own wedding.
No, I've heard this. Yeah,
I was stuck in Toronto for 4 days.
I've heard this. Yeah, no, and the other part of it is it was the first time that I had two first-class seats. I don't know why. It just so happened I did, but I was in the front row for both flights. For the first time ever in my life, I was the first person off the plane. I felt pretty cool about that. So that was extra reason and motivation. I wanted to make those flights.
Either they thought that you're a really important person, or they thought they need to be within eyesight of the flight attendant to keep an eye on you. I don't know which one.
Yeah, that may be coming from the Rush office there. Who knows? We'll talk about that Rush game coming up here. Let's get into it right now, Evan. It's time for Stampede Tax, who we had. And with the winter weather happening both here at BC, went into Snowmageddon, Evan. It shut down completely after 10 centimeters of snow. and the whole city just shut down. So whether you're here in Warrior Country or Rush Nation there in Saskatoon or way across there in Halifax, you need boots. And Stampede Tack and Western Wear has the boot for you to beat the winter weather, keep dry and warm. Shop online, stampede.ca, where shopping online is still shopping local.
I hope that we got a few listeners in Newfoundland that will talk about your 10 centimeters of snow and laugh at you.
No, like I posted that today, and there's like a time-lapse video, a 24-hour time-lapse video of the snow in Newfoundland, and I posted that up. I said, quit complaining, Vancouver. Like, that was like 10 feet in 24 hours or something.
There were people, I don't know if you saw these posts, but literally their snow was so high up their front door.
Crazy.
That they had opened it and they cut some little holes in the snow and started using it as a cooler.
Yeah, crazy. Enough weather talk, Evan. Let's get into who we had. It was a massive Week 8 in the National Lacrosse League. 8 games on the docket. Friday, Saturday, Sunday lacrosse, which I absolutely love, Evan. You know that by now. Let's get into it, man. Friday night, it all started right here in my neck of the woods in Vancouver, Colorado, at Vancouver. And you selecting the Mammoth in this game, Evan. I selected the home team, the Vancouver Warriors. And this was a goaltending defensive juggernaut. There were some. We're going to talk about this later, but there's some crazy low scores in the National Lacrosse League. There's 7.
I got the stats here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about 7-5 Warriors over the Mammoth. Evan, this one was a fun to watch. Eric Penny now, EP61 was on fire, and so was Dylan Ward, but Penny was just a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, this broke, I don't think it broke, but it tied a couple records for fewest goals in a game and for fewest goals scored by a winning team. So it was crazy. And here's some stats just to think about this week, because this was the week of the goalie. And you got to give some props to the D2, but look at these numbers here.
Hashtag Trade Ward.
Trade Ward, yeah. Speaking of Ward, it's a goals against average this week in a 6.5 and lost a game, right? Zach Higgins, we'll get to him a little later, 5.81 goals against average and lost a game, right? The average number of goals scored, most people who you got are looking about 23 to 25 a game.
Yeah.
It was 17.75. It was under 9 goals per team per game this week. It was
not that I want to give my secrets away here, Evan. Week 6 winner, by the way, right here, yours truly. Week 6 winner. I kind of start from the number 20 and then look at the teams and work off of that. That's kind of my theory from the Week 6 who you got winner.
But the strange thing is the Colorado offense really, really, really struggled. And they didn't have Kyle Killen in this game. He was a healthy scratch. Maybe that throws it off a bit, but it's still no excuse. When you allow 7 goals in a game, you got to expect to win. Now, a lot of credit to the Vancouver D. They were pressuring. They were keeping Colorado the outside. They were keeping the shots from distance.
Best I've ever seen that Vancouver D play.
Best I've ever seen Eric Penny play.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
The offense didn't contribute much, and, Logan Schuss was out with an injury. That was part of the issue. But, full marks to the defense and Eric Penny here.
And I've been seeing kind of the signs starting to develop here for Eric Penny over the last couple of years. But if that wasn't Penny's kind of coming out party, if you know what I'm saying here, Evan, and kind of saying, okay, like, this is my team now, and I love Aaron Bolds, don't get me wrong, fabulous career and all the rest of it, but he's on the wrong side of the hill as far as which direction he's going, and I think this is Eric Penny's team now, and especially after that, what was a gut check must-win game for the Warriors. And he and that defense stepped up, and I think the return of Joel McCready has paid huge dividends, not only on the floor, but I'm sure in that room as well. And he gets everybody ready to go. And when you see a player kind of play with the energy and the fire and the passion that Joel McCready does, that's infectious, and I think we've been seeing that in Vancouver.
And one other thing to look at, if you look at the last couple of games, I think Vancouver's taken a whole 4 penalties now in 2 games.
Huge difference, man.
That's going to go a lot. That's going to go a long ways. I mean, Vancouver only had 38 shots on goal.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. So that was the only Friday night game. I got it right. The Week 6 winner got it right there, Evan. You got it wrong. Who's never won a week of who you got. Let's move along here.
Just
San
won 2
Diego
out of 3 seasons.
and Halifax are up next. From Halifax, break up the Thunderbirds here, Evan. As 5-0 are the Halifax Thunderbirds. Another impressive victory here. San Diego, they take them down in another low-scoring game, and this has got to be frustrating for Frankie Chiliano to play like that and still come out on the wrong side of it. Warren Hill has got to be in the conversation for MVP right now. The way he is playing goal as a bona fide number 1 in his first year, and this is what he's doing. 5-0 and allows 5 against the Seals, 8-5 the final.
And in fact, it was 6-5 with a minute to go. So this was actually in the running to break all the records. And Halifax, a surprising only 41 shots on goal. So this was one that they got the last 4 goals of the game. That's what kind of sealed it. But yeah, I mean, Warren Hill, okay, I mean, I don't know if I'm willing to say MVP. I don't know if I'm willing to say goaltender of the year yet because Dylan Ward, I won't go that far just yet. But I will say this: he is certainly the most improved player in the league by a long shot.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I overstepped there, but especially the way that goalies are going here this year, and you talked about Ward and Higgins, and Del Bianco is going to be in the conversation, as is Matt Vince, and who knows, Evan Kirk could be in there as well. But you can't look away from 5-0 for the Halifax Thunderbirds. That is impressive. We talked about it last week on a way to engage your new fan base there in Halifax. My goodness, that's the way you do it right there for the Thunderbirds. Impressive. These are all fantastic games here in Week 8, Evan, but this one surprised a lot of people. With the Calgary Roughnecks making the trip across the continent into Rochester, New York. Of course, no Jesse King. Of course, no Tyler Pace. Of course, no Dane Doby. But the defending champs are the first victims of the Rochester Knighthawks, who get the victory here, Evan. 13-12, the final. This one was tight pretty much the entire way, kind of back and forth. And the Knighthawks show it. They get it done. And they get their first victory as the Rochester Knighthawks' new franchise.
And, of course, I guess if there's any good news for Calgary right now is Reese Dutch is back.
Yeah,
and,
welcome back.
He didn't look. He looked. I mean, he's still. It's his first game back. I'm not expecting a miracle, but couple assists, and that's what. Here's the big story with this game, and that is Wendy Vitendi.
Yeah,
He's definitely solidified himself as the number 1 guy, and I think the team has now got a lot more confidence in him. But the last 11 minutes of regulation and overtime, he pulled off a lot of great saves to keep that team in it, to give them that chance. What am I talking about? This one didn't go to overtime, but the last 10 minutes.
It probably felt like overtime for those Knighthawks and Wendy when. You're a team that's on your home floor looking for your first win, and to be in a tight game like that probably felt like they couldn't allow another goal if they wanted to win that game. And you're right. I get the decision to go to Fryer in Philadelphia, but I also think there was a case to go back to Wendy as well. And I don't, maybe they're trying to figure out their trio there between Hartley, Fryer, and Wendy. I think you're right. I think Wendy has proven that he is going to be the guy. Hartley getting some mop-up duty in behind Fryer, which I don't want to hang that loss on him. I think it wasn't Fryer's best game, and probably a lot of pressure on him knowing that was kind of his opportunity to shine if he wanted to make a statement, and it just didn't happen. And partly the defense in front of them wasn't great, and a lot of power plays and all the rest of it. But that's the way she goes in the National Lacrosse League.
But here's another thing to take away, and that is you expect Calgary to be in a race with Saskatchewan and Colorado for the division title. This is one of those games at the end of the season that Calgary might look back and say, this is where we should have had one.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you take 3 of your premier starters out on offense, and then with the travel and all the rest of it, that's a tough grind in Rochester, man. I've made that trip a couple of times, and it's no cakewalk from BC, which, of course, a lot of Roughnecks reside. Game of the week here, Evan. You tell me. Philly at New England. This thing goes to overtime, and controversial overtime goal at the casino. No overhead camera, which I thought was mandatory in the National Lacrosse League. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I should probably reach out and find out. And I don't know if it's just at one. I could have swore I've seen overhead at New England. Maybe it's just in one end of the arena, which is a bit of a funky configuration there. But Showtime, Callum Crawford getting the overtime winner here. 8-7 the final. Another low-scoring game. So we've had 7-5, 8-5, now 8-7. This is an overtime. 13-12, the final for Rochester, by the way. To me, Evan, even without the overhead look, it looked like a foot in the crease to me. And Philly is still probably bitter about it, that they didn't have the proper camera angle to get a look at this and get it right, which is really frustrating.
Yeah, and you know, let's put the blame where the blame is. Todd LaBranche had at his disposal only so many things. He made the correct call based on what was available to him, which was inconclusive, right? And the other problem is that if you don't have an overhead cam, are you not having 2 cameras in the corner to make sure you got both sides covered? Because unfortunately, the side Crawford goes down, his back is to the camera, so there's just no way of knowing it. Now, I believe the other arenas have overhead cams, although some have issues. If I'm not mistaken, there's a couple where it doesn't cover the entire crease. So if you are looking for the back of the line or the sides, it sometimes misses it too. So this is something that's got to get worked on. But yeah, I mean, both goaltenders, you know, Dougie Jamieson, 50 of 57, Higgins, 47 of 55. Here's a shocking stat of this one. 2 power plays the entire game.
Yeah, well, right? we'll go from one extreme to the other. Well, maybe Philadelphia will, Evan.
Well, and here's one other thing. You know, we finally got to see Nardella go up against Baptiste, and Baptiste took it to him, 14-19.
Well, there you go. We can't argue with those numbers there for the Beast, who continues to impress. Took a pretty big shot on Sunday as well. That kind of sparked it all. But we'll talk about that here momentarily. But Black Wolves, Evan, stay undefeated with that overtime victory. And circle it when the Black Wolves and the Thunderbirds hook up. We'll see if those guys are still undefeated when they meet, but it's coming. It's coming. Look that up, Evan, while I ramble along. See when those two teams meet for the first time this season. Toronto goes to Buffalo, and news coming down right before this game started, Evan, that Captain America Tommy Schreiber was not going to play in this game. And that was a tough blow. Of course, no Adam Jones in there as well. A classic kind of bandit rock game here from Buffalo. And the Bandits come out on top just as we both predicted with the victory 10-8 in this one. So we should recap here quickly.
Yeah, we did. We missed the game that you got incorrect there.
We did. So we both had Halifax to beat San Diego. We had Calgary taking Rochester, which we both got wrong. I had Philadelphia. You had New England. It came down to an overtime goal to get you the victory in that one. So we're both 2-2 through.
Doesn't matter
games.
how you win them, as long as you win them, right?
Overtime was how it was won, though, just so you recall. 10-8, the final. Bandits beat the Rock, and this was a bit of a slugfest.
And here's an interesting thing we'll see in two different games with two different results. Live by the long shot, die by the long shot. And one team did very well with it, that we'll get to, but Toronto, when you're firing from almost at the restraining line with a 6-on-5, you got to start to work this and try to get the ball inside. I didn't get to see much of this game, unfortunately. But here's a note here is that Noseworthy got an instigator, so he's likely going to be sitting the next one.
Yeah, but I don't know if have you seen the clip of it, Evan? Like he's not going to get an instigator after they review the tape. I think Garrison kind of saw something that he thought he saw but didn't really see. And when you watch the replay again, it's actually Gustavin that engages with Noseworthy. So if anyone's getting the instigator, I think it's going to Toronto. But it looked like two good Canadian boys that just want to get after it a little bit and give the decision to Noseworthy clearly. But there was no instigator there, and I'm pretty sure we'll see that rescinded. At least if we don't, we should. But I think it'll happen. So let's move along. Georgia goes into Long Island to take on the New York Riptide. We're going to talk to Dan Lomas coming up here in a bit, Evan. But, wow. Riptide. They win it, Evan. 13-12, the final in this one. What did I see? 7 goals scored in the fourth quarter and capped off by one Daniel McRae, who wins it for the Riptide. This is after scoring with 1 second left to send it to OT.
And the ball squeaking in at that.
Like this was a wild finish, and
it was.
The Riptide got it done.
Yeah, I mean, I got to eat my words here because I said in who you got it. This is going to be lopsided, and this could get ugly. And when I started looking at the score, because I had the Georgia Swarm in my tiebreaker even, and it's looking at the score like, what? It's still scoreless, and we're just keeping going. And Georgia pushed in the third quarter and got out to a lead. And then they fell into the trap a lot of teams have fallen into against the Riptide, and that is you got too comfortable. You started playing down to your opponent. You started thinking that your opponent wasn't as good as they were. And the Riptide figured out that Mikey Poulin was not seeing the ball well from distance and just started ripping everything. They've played the long shot, and they played it very well. Now, it almost went back the other way. Yeah, Lyle Thompson all of a sudden became Lyle Thompson, scores 2 goals, gets a 12-11 lead, only for him to lose it. But the final goal, I mean, I don't know what was...
Sanunde, Evan,
I mean,
flying over us.
But the overtime goal was unusual in that McRae's going down the floor in a transition play. He gets bodied up. There's a second Swarm player that comes to him. And then I think they both just think that McRae's just going to tail off.
There's no way he's shooting.
And
piping in for Danny Mac, too.
And they both just backed off of him, and he gets a shot from 10 feet.
But what a shot, though. What a shot, though.
It was a great shot, but it was a horrible defensive play to get it there.
I mean, no better guy, really, to get the first franchise-winning goal in overtime. The captain, the boy returning home, if you will, to the area, former RAT guy and has lots of ties to the area. That was pretty cool to kind of witness that and to do it in dramatic fashion the way they did. Thorpe scoring with a second left to get it to overtime. Looked like they were going to let one slip away again, and it just they found a way. They found a way. So we're going to talk to Dan Lomas coming up, but 2 more games to go before we get to one. Holden Cattoni. This one we are both at front and center for, Evan. Colorado, after losing in Vancouver the night before, they get into Saskatoon around noon on game day. I don't know how else to put this, Evan. They took the Rush, who got up in this game 3-0 out of the gate, and then got outscored 12-3 the rest of the way. led by Dylan Ward, and 5 goals from Chris Wardle. Eli McLaughlin had a gem and 6 or 7 points. Dylan Ward was absolutely spectacular in this one. I think the Rush had upwards of 60 shots. Colorado was just more intense, a more focused and hungry team than Saskatchewan. They win this one, and the scoreboard showed it. 12-6 the final.
Yeah, when they lost in Vancouver, what was in the back of my mind was, oh boy, they're going to come into Saskatoon playing twice as hard as they normally would because they got to get that one back. And yeah, Dylan Ward allows, 2 goals in the first 3 shots, 3 on the first 5, and then 3 out of the next 50.
Hashtag trade Ward.
Yeah, trade Ward. And I'm loving that people are now starting to troll the troller. But
how great is that?
Yeah, but it's absolutely insane. The Rush, I gotta say 2 things about this effort. Number one, that the offense outside of Jeff Shattler seemed to be the only one with any energy out on the floor in that game. He was trying to push the game, but the rest of them seemed timid. And the other thing that was confusing was they were going from a 3 righty set to a 3 lefty set, back to a 3 righty set, and it seemed so off balance. I don't know if they ever got into a rhythm.
Yeah, Colorado is a big punishing defense that's going to make you pay when you come inside on them. And I thought the Rush were doing a pretty good job finding backside looks early in the game, and then it kind of disappeared, and they started to figure it out a little bit. But Colorado's so aggressive, and man, they're a mean piece of business on that back end, Evan. They are tough. They are tough back there. And then when you do break through on them, you gotta try and find a way to bury on 45, and it's just not easy, man. Like it is hard to score goals on Dylan Ward.
And the other thing, if you watched it close enough, the Mammoth did the exact same thing to the Rush that they did when they were in Saskatoon in the playoffs. They were putting a guy at X all night, dragging the defense to where the Rush didn't want it to be, and it worked.
Put a guy on an island on the one side. Yeah, no, you're right. And I go back to that Wardle goal that made it 6-4 right near the end of the half. And I don't know if the replay guy got it right or not. I could have sworn there was a toe down there, but he kind of kept rolling past that point and then rewinding and then fast forwarding, and he never really froze it where the toe I thought was down. But that goal ends up counting, which made it 6-4, and then Capito comes down looking just for a 2-for-1 scenario and blows one past Kirk from just inside the restraining line to make it 7-4, and that was a massive swing of events right there.
Well, the Rush are now, this is the crazy thing, they haven't lost on the road, they haven't won at home. Yeah. Unfortunately, home wins don't sell tickets, so they need to get that fixed pretty quick.
Well, here's another oddity. Now they got to sit for 3 weeks, and then the same 2 teams play again in Saskatoon. The next game that they play is against Colorado, February the 8th.
Yeah, I was actually having that conversation with Pat Coyle after the game. He's saying, by the time we get to that game, that's our 10th game of the season. It's only going to be the Rush's 6th.
Yeah.
Right? There's this massive imbalance where the Mammoth only have 2 games in April and the Rush have 5.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Interesting times indeed. Okay. Both got that one wrong, as we both had Saskatchewan there. We both took Georgia. We both got that one wrong, Evan. One more game.
Well, and only 2% of people got the New York one, right?
Well, hey, that's the way she goes, man. That's the way she goes. One more game to go. It was the Sunday affair from Philadelphia. Another good crowd there in Philly, Evan. They are happy their Wings are back in Philly, and the home team put on a show in this one in what got pretty nasty down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Udding with an elbow, what looked to be a bit of a, I don't know. It did not look good on Baptiste. Evans was running around doing Evans-type things. Ian Lord getting involved. This thing got real now, but there almost seemed like the referees refused to give anybody a 5-minute major, and that's why it just kind of kept escalating. Like nobody got kicked out, nobody got a 5-minute major, and it just kind of kept going and going. It was like a bomb just waiting to explode as the game was out of hand. Philly wipes this one away. 12-4 the final. Zach Higgins continues to impress. But it was the amount of penalties down the stretch in this one that was kind of really the story.
Yeah, the number of penalties is double the number of goals in this game. Let's put it that way. Now, a lot of them are coincidental. That's why you won't see as many. But yeah, Philadelphia had 13 power play chances. Does that give you any idea as to what happened here? And yeah, I think somebody on the group chat said it is when you see Paul Dawson taking an offensive shift, you know what's about to happen. They're not trying to score a goal at that stage, but yes. They're very lucky because there was that one time where Evans dropped the mitts, Dawson dropped the mitts, and they all got roughing minors. And if they had gotten fighting majors, whoever's in the second fight is getting a match penalty and a suspension. Now there is a instigator here that I think is going to stand, and that's Garitano got a pretty obvious instigator.
Yeah, I think he came off the bench and got involved in an altercation. That's gonna find you some time, and it's something that, and I know we got to get to break here because we got Cattoni coming up, but it's something that I've wanted to kind of bring up on Lax Class for a while, and it's the subject of fighting in lacrosse, and should it belong? Is it still relevant? Does it need to happen? Does it not need to happen? What should happen if it happens? We're not going to do that today, but there was an uptick in fighting this weekend. There was a few across the league in several games. And I think that Saskatchewan game probably could have used one myself, Evan, just to get the crowd and get everybody into the game because it didn't seem like. Anyways, I'll say this: nobody's sitting on their seat and nobody's walking out of the building when happens, and it sells tickets. It sells tickets. So
it sells tickets, and the other thing is that when sticks are up in the game, you'd rather they settle it with the fist than they settle it with the sticks.
There's a lot that I want to speak on it, and I know Commissioner Sakevich is dead set against it. He wants it eliminated from the game, as do a number of the other owners. There are several owners that want it back in or left in the game and keep things the way they are, and maybe even loosen the rules to some regard on it. So I think it's a conversation that needs to be had, and it will be here on Lacrosse Classified. It just won't be this week. Evan, we both went 4-4 in week 8, so you remain up a game, and I get to host Who You Got again. By the way, you chickened out on hosting Who We Had here this week, so it looks like I'm going to be in the driver's seat for that. But I will get to host Who You Got again this week, and we have our winner from week 8 as well. Good friend of ours and a guy from, he works for the National Lacrosse League. He works for the Lacrosse Flash. He's about to get married as well. Our good pal, Adam Levy, is our week 8 winner. And Evan, we need to give out Adam's Twitter handle here because Adam is graciously donating his prize to somebody, and it'll make a lot more sense once you read the tweet from Adam. So stay tuned to his Twitter account and give Adam a follow at, what is it? You Never Sport Alone, right?
Adam Levy Sports, I believe is what it is now.
Okay.
So Levy spelled Levi. Yeah, very simple contest that he's putting out there is in 280 characters, so one tweet. Tell him who your favorite player is and why, and whoever comes up with the best answer, not the right answer, the best answer for their player, is getting his Stampede tack package.
There you go. So congratulations, Adam, and then congratulations to whoever Adam selects as his prize winner. Didn't need to do that, but he's growing the game, if you will. Evan, let's get to break here on episode 63. Big opening segment right there. Quarter 1 is done. Quarter 2 is next. The former Blue Jay of Johns Hopkins lacrosse. It's Holden Cattoni from the Rochester Knighthawks on the other side. This is Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Associated Labels and Packaging, a fun family company that offers premium quality labels and packaging with unparalleled service. With 40 years of experience, an extensive product catalog, and an ever-growing fleet of equipment, Associated Labels and Packaging is the perfect fit to take your labels and packaging to the next level.
Hey, this is Devin Caney from the NLL. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network, growing the game one podcast at a time.
Welcome back to Lax Class. This is episode 63. This is Jake Elliott. I'm joined by my partner, Evan Schemenauer. You just heard from our friends at Associated Labels and Packaging, Sean Ashworth and the gang here in Coquitlam. Evan, I know you had a chance to get down there when you were out here for the World Championships, did some talking to the salesman down there, Tosh Nishimura, and you had a good conversation with those guys talking about maybe your firm hooking up with them and their products.
Yeah, we're still hooking up with our clients on our end. I have to say in Saskatchewan, we're a little bit behind on this environmental issue, but it's kind of bringing it forward to our clients and saying, here's the future. Do you want to hop on board? So hopefully we're going to be doing business with them very soon.
Well, who doesn't want to be on board with the future? Speaking of the future is right now as we have former Johns Hopkins Blue Jay and coming. I think one of the, we're going to talk to him about this, Evan, but I think one of the kind of the first players to come out of the Evolve or Elevate program in Alberta. I always get those two mixed up. We're going to talk to him about it right now. It's Holden Cattoni from the Rochester Knighthawks. Holden, thanks for doing this, man. Welcome to Lax Class.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Now, set me straight. Is it Elevate there in Calgary and Snyder and the gang? Is that the program that you came out of originally in Alberta?
Yeah, that's the exact program. It was called Elevate, run by Jeff Snyder and Bobby Snyder. And I played for them for a couple of years in high school.
Yeah, and you were kind of like, I remember your name coming up. They were super proud, as they should be, that you were kind of one of the very first guys out of Alberta to find themselves down to a Div 1 scholarship, and you kind of really hit the mother load with it, Holden, as you end up at kind of the holy grail of lacrosse schools at Hopkins. Tell me how that process worked for you. How did you find your way to Hopkins? And then tell me about your time there, which is just like the mecca of Div 1 lacrosse.
Yeah, no, it was great. I actually got recruited off of a YouTube video. Coach Petro at Hopkins recruited me, and I committed to Hopkins prior to him ever seeing me play in person. So it's a little bit of a weird experience and a different one from like the traditional way that people are recruited. But I played in a couple of tournaments for Elevate. I think I was in the 10th grade, I want to say, and played in a couple of tournaments around Philly. From that, made a highlight tape that was posted on YouTube, and that's how I got recruited.
Crazy.
I committed maybe just a couple months later, just prior to the start of my 11th grade year, going into high school, and the rest is kind of history from there. Went to Hopkins for 4 years. I really liked it. Have some of my best friends that I could ever wish for that I met there, and a lot of guys I'm really close with still today. I live with one of my college roommates still, and he's one of my best friends in the world. So some great connections that I've made with people there, and really enjoyed my time and my education.
Yeah, and before we get started kind of on the lacrosse stuff and the Peterborough Lakers and the Calgary Roughnecks and the Rochester Knighthawks and the Georgia Swarm, we want to talk about all that with you, Holden, but you mentioned just before we kind of came on air here that you're living in Washington, D.C., and I don't know too many, like I've been to D.C. way back when, but I don't know too many guys that are living in that area. How do you find yourself a guy from Alberta who spent some time in Peterborough and then now down to Washington, D.C.? Are you working down there? Do you got a special lady going on down there? What's happening? How'd you end up down in D.C.?
I work down here. I got a job working for a biotech startup called Septicus. So I work for them. And, it's kind of close connection to Hopkins, Baltimore, just about an hour up the street. So it's, good, nice little area. And I mentioned my friend Connor, who I live with right now. He's one of my best friends. He's from the area. So it was a nice little easy transition for me to move down here and, have a friends group already and somebody to live with. And
nice.
I've loved it. DC is an unbelievable city. It's something I highly recommend everyone kind of visit at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of history here. It's super fun, very vibrant, super clean, safe. It's, perfect for me. And I've loved every minute of it so far. And I've been here just about 2 years.
Going back to the off season, and of course you're now with your third team in 3 years. I think we were all surprised that Georgia didn't protect you. I guess were you surprised that Georgia didn't protect you? And when they didn't, what was the transition like at that stage in those next couple of weeks? Because obviously you were going to get picked in the expansion draft.
Yeah, like you said, I was actually shocked, to be honest. That I was left unprotected, and I know there's a lot of hard decisions to be made in the NLL just with the era of expansion that we're in right now. But I was surprised. I thought I had a really good year in Georgia last year, and really built up a lot of chemistry with the guys there, especially on the offensive end. And I thought we really had a great group and kind of a good plan moving forward. But obviously, management felt a little bit differently, or had to make some tough decisions. And unfortunately, I got kind of the short end of the stick when it came down to who they were leaving unprotected. But to be perfectly honest, it worked out really well, and I'm incredibly happy with the way things turned out with playing in Rochester this year, and the group of guys that we have there, and the staff and the management of the team is unbelievable so far. And I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, I mean, talk about that, Holden, because you go from a situation where you're surrounded by some pretty high-profile guys, and Lyle and Randy Stotts and Shane Jackson, and then to Rochester, where you got Sean Evans, but you kind of become the number one, if you will, for that Nighthawk team, and that's not a situation that you've ever really been in, including your time with the Peterborough Lakers, who's a bona fide NLL All-Star team as well, and that's kind of a different role for you. Is that one that you look forward to and want to embrace, being the number one guy and the first option there for the lefties?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's everyone's dream when they start playing in the league, that you're the guy that's relied upon. You're the one that's taking the shot, or the ball's in your stick with a minute left, and those are all things that we think about as kids or growing up. And it's exactly kind of the challenge that I was looking for. I never looked at myself as kind of a back burner guy, especially, maybe earlier on in my career in the NLL. I did when I was with Calgary, just playing behind a lot of guys and being young. But I always thought of myself as just a bigger part of the offense, not any bigger or any less than anyone else, but a main contributor. And that's the way I look at Rochester as well. I think I've been labeled the number one there on the left side, but I can't do what makes me successful without the help of Pat Saunders, Turner Evans, and Danny Nickel. Those guys have played so well this year, and they helped me out so much. And we just have a great cast of offensive talent on the front door here in Rochester. So it's been an exciting group to play with and grow with.
Saturday night, obviously a massive win, first in franchise history. I guess it's a nice double whammy, because not only you get to stick it to your old team, but you get the monkey off your back and you finally win a close one. Talk about the electricity in the dressing room and what put you over the edge this time to get you the W.
Yeah, it was obviously very exciting. We have a lot of young guys on the team. It's their first kind of taste of victory in the NLL, and it just shows how hard it is to win this league. We've been, other than the last game that we played against Philly and the very first game against Georgia, we've been, very competitive and kind of knocking on the door to our first win. And I've said it in a couple of interviews that we're just kind of missing that one piece that, got us over the hump to win. And I think it was just kind of a combination of everything kind of coming together for us. We had a lot of transition goals. We played well 5-on-5 defensively. We played well 5-on-5 offensively. We had some great stops from Craig Wendy in the net, and it's just kind of all came together for us. And that's what you need in the NLL. You need a little bit of luck, and you need to show up to play for 60 minutes or as close to it as you can get. And we were rewarded for that.
Speaking with Holden Cattoni from the Rochester Knighthawks, and I guess on the flip side of that, Holden, you can look to just yesterday in Philadelphia, where maybe the signs of a young and experienced team kind of showed up. But with that being said, I know the scoreline got out of hand, but maybe the response from your team coming down the stretch, that sort of thing with all the penalties and guys sticking up for each other and showing a little spark can go a long way for the team chemistry and kind of coming together in the locker room as well. I know that's a tough loss for you, but I think some lessons and some bonding that can come out of that game.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there. And when we talk about what we want out of every game in Rochester, it's always Hazer telling us that we're going to learn something from every game. And whether we win, we lose, we get blown out, we have to learn from it. And you're absolutely right. Like the chemistry that we build up and the camaraderie from, we got spanked last night, but the way that we stuck up for each other and we battled to the end, regardless of the score, is, positive for our group and something that we can take down the road when we're playing in tight games and it gets, a little chippy or, we need to be a little bit more disciplined. So those are all good lessons that we have to learn. Unfortunate that it came off, our first win in franchise history and a high that we felt after that. But it's good that we kind of get maybe back down to earth and show really, like I said before, how hard it is to win in this league consistently.
Your offense on the Rochester Knighthawks is not your typical expansion team offense in which you've got a real NLL starting lineup up front. Struggled to get goals the first couple of games. Was it just a case of trying to get used to playing with one another?
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I think it just felt a little disconnected at first. The first couple of games, it felt our offense just kind of felt choppy. I think it's just a lot of instead of reading and reacting and understanding what the guy across the floor from you is going to do, it's a lot of thinking about what he's going to do and trying to get used to playing with new guys, and that it's all just a learning process. And I think we're slowly getting past that, and we've showed some glimpses in some games where we played really well, and there's still some growing pains there. But like you said, there's a lot of talent, and we're really lucky that kind of the way the expansion and trades and free agency went, that we have a really good group up front, and we all get along really well, and we all talk to each other a lot on the bench and in practice. So we know it's only a matter of time till we start clicking like really consistently. And I think our numbers have been pretty good so far, minus a couple of outliers. So it's just like I said, about our whole team is getting better each game and taking away key things that we can learn from.
Last one here for you, Holden Cattoni. I usually like to either ask guys how they got started playing lacrosse or why they wear the number that they do. And I saw at Hopkins you wore 99. I've seen you wear number 9, 19, 91. Obviously the number 9 means something to you, Holden. I'd like to know why.
Yeah, so I always wore number 9 growing up. Caleb Toth was kind of my first big lacrosse mentor, and a close family friend, still one of my good buddies to this day. I saw him out in Victoria when we went out there and for the Man Cup this year, and so he was kind of the guy that inspired me to play lacrosse and take it really seriously. And he's an awesome guy, one of my favorites of all time. Great character guy. And he's the reason I wear number 9.
Oh, there you go. Hanging in the rafters at the Saddle Dome. Niner. You don't get the nickname Niner unless you made the number 9 famous. So I loved watching Caleb Toth play lacrosse as well. He was an absolute warrior out there. Holden, hey, man, I appreciate you doing this, making a little time for us here on Lacrosse Class. Nice job.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, enjoy your week 9 off, and best of luck with the Rochester Knighthawks down the road. We'll talk again soon. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Holden Cattoni from the Rochester Knighthawks, Evan. And you're right. I think, Georgia, tough decision there, obviously, to expose Holden, but Rochester couldn't have been happier to see that and snap him up quickly. Especially going from Calgary, where he's born and raised, to going to Georgia, being traded for Jesse King, that adds some pressure. But now being the number 1 guy in Rochester on that left side, he's really seen to embrace that role, and he's flourishing. Flourishing, Evan.
Well, think about it this way. The first 2 picks of the expansion draft for Rochester are Sean Evans and Holden Cattoni. You couldn't have asked for a better start off the expansion draft than those two.
No.
So you've got this team now. If they can get their defense down, they're going to start to win a lot more games. Their offense, still a little bit of work to do, getting some consistency, but they're going to win games. I don't think they're going to be the last place team in the league. They're definitely not going to be. And give it a year or two, they're probably going to be a playoff contender.
Yeah, we said it from the start, right? We were a little surprised at the start how bad it was, but that roster from top to bottom, when you got character like Curtis Knight and Sean Evans and holding on that team, you're going to get your fair share of wins, and it looks like Wendy's going to be the guy there. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm confident in that Rochester roster. And Dan Carey and Mike Hazen, they couldn't have a better leadership group there to kind of steer that ship for the K-Hawks. So more wins to come for them. Tough one in Philly yesterday, but congrats on the big victory over the defending champs. And now they got that in their rearview mirror. They can kind of start to look ahead, as can our next guest in the team that he plays for, as they got their first win in their franchise's history as well. And it sounded, well, no, we're going to play it on the other side. Let's do that, Evan. Dan Lomas from the New York Riptide will join us on episode 63 of Lacrosse Classified when we return here on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
A Vancouver Warriors game at Rogers Arena sounds like this.
Jones shoots and he scores! Diving effort from Mitch Jones.
Nothing's monotone.
Lee and Beers go crashing into the crease.
Nothing's boring.
Now we're going to have a fight. It's the captain squaring off.
And at Vancouver Warriors games,
loads up.
Nothing's offside.
Tries a shot and he scores!
Experience it for yourself. Vancouver Warriors tickets are available now. Tickets starting from $19.95. Visit VancouverWarriors.com/tickets today.
This is Keegan Ball from the Vancouver Warriors. You're listening to Lax Class, your go-to source for all things NLL and box lacrosse.
Welcome back to Lax Class, lacrosse fans. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer, episode 63. You just heard from our friends at the Vancouver Warriors with that big victory over the weekend, Evan. I selected them to beat the Mammoth. You did not believe in our fine sponsors from the Warriors that they could get it done. And they made you look bad, Evan. Man, did they make you look bad. If they
to use my pick as incentive to go win that game, great.
Hey, there you go. Check them out at VancouverWarriors.com. They're off for a couple of weeks, are the Warriors. But on February, this is bogus, man, because I'm going to be in Saskatoon again. I'm going to have to miss the Warriors again. But back February the 7th, for throwback night going down at the Raj. Remember Y2K or the original iPod? I was at the KISS concert for the Millennium Y2K at BC Place, Evan. What a time to be alive. And I still have an original iPod. Hey, check them out at VancouverWarriors.com. You can get your tickets starting at just $19.95. Cheap beer, cheap food, and all the rest of it. Good times waiting to be had at the Vancouver Warriors game. And speaking of Vancouver Warriors, we got a former Vancouver Warrior on the program about to join us here, Evan. Now a member of the New York Riptide and coming off a nice tidy 5-point performance in the franchise's first victory ever. Coming in dramatic fashion, Dan Lomas, first time on Lacrosse Classified. Dan, thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
My pleasure. I know you're chilling out in Burlington right now, but take me back to Saturday night there at Nassau on Long Island. The captain, Danny McRae, getting it done in overtime. Talk about that game as a whole, though, Dan. That had to be super thrilling for you, the fans, and everybody involved with the organization to get that one under your belts.
Yeah, I think it was, again, it's been, a few weeks now that, especially coming off that Philly game that we felt we were, really in that one. And every week we've kind of been taking strides to the group we want to be for a full 60 minutes. So, we started that game, at least from an offensive side, pretty slow. And we saw our goal and our defense playing really well. So, coming in at halftime, we sat down as a group and realized we had to, just do more and try to put the ball in the back of the net ultimately. So it was, the first half didn't go the way we wanted, and we just didn't give up, and that's kind of the that's the attitude of this group, is to just never really give up. I've said it a few times before. Ultimately, our group is, with the exception of draft picks, we're put together of a bunch of guys other teams didn't want, and I think that you really do see that in the personality of the group. We're close because everybody in that room believes we can compete in this league, and I don't think a lot of people outside do. So it was a roller coaster game. It just showed the resiliency of our group, coming back in the fourth quarter. Again, that's a really good team. And, I think that they're going through last few games have been a struggle for them. So but it doesn't take anything away from, them being a championship caliber team as well. So I think that first of all, it proved to us that we can compete with anybody week to week. But I think it showed, other teams that, we're not a group that you can just, walk over.
Now, you'd mentioned you're a group of guys that other teams had passed up on, and coming into this season, you had a year in Rochester. You're on the practice roster almost the entire year. You go into Vancouver, you get cut there. When you come on to New York, is there anything in the back of your head saying, maybe this is my last chance, or is the pressure wrapped up to make it work this time?
I think for me, I think I've always kind of had that confidence that I can, do something for a team to make them better, whether it's, my first year in Rochester, I got an opportunity to play, 14 games because Cody had gone down with an injury. And, the second year, my role shifted to being, the best practice player you can ask for, and, bringing, a great attitude and a great effort every time the group's together. And, that year we got to go to the final, and I think I learned a lot about what it takes to win. And obviously in Vancouver last year, things just didn't work out. I don't think I played the way I'm capable of. And again, they treated me very well in the time I was there. And I definitely don't blame them for letting me go. It just, again, didn't work out. And sure, it's, I can't lie and say that there hasn't been times where you really do sit down and think, if you can do it and if you can make it in this league. But, the way I kind of have said it to buddies of mine and even family when they ask if, you want to keep doing it, that there's really no feeling there's no feeling like running on the floor when there's, 5, 10, 15,000 people cheering or booing at you. There's really nothing like that. And there's nothing like being a part of something that's bigger than you. And, coming to New York this year for me was a lot like going to university, going to High Point when it was, the first year of the program. I think, being able to lay a foundation for years to come down the road is something that, I'm very honored to be a part of. I can't thank Reggie and Dan McRae for vouching for me in the free agency side of things. It kind of took a lot to take a chance on me after the year that the last couple of years that I kind of had in the league. So it's, it's something that, again, like I said, there was definitely second guesses at some points, but I kind of sat down and had a good talk with myself that, this is what I wanted to do. And I'm really going to put everything I can into it, and again, it's, I'm not really a person that's, going to care too much about trying to get points or anything like that, or, that's not really how I measure my success as a player. It's, making sure I can help out anybody in any way on our team and ultimately try to get some wins.
Speaking with Dan Lomas of the New York Riptide, some of the best conversations you can have in your life are with yourself, Dan. I can tell you that. Tell me about High Point. You just mentioned it there, and some other guys have come through the program, and Connor Robinson comes to mind in particular. But to go to a program in its first year in its inception, that's not something a lot of guys want to take on. How did you end up at High Point? And tell me about that program, that university, that area of the world, and what it did for you and your lacrosse career.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was, a basically unrecruited kid kind of going through high school playing lacrosse, and, field lacrosse is something you kind of just did in the off season of box lacrosse,
right.
and living here. And I think when I was kind of going through the recruiting process, that's when you started to see a lot more Canadians kind of going down there. So a lot of the guys I was playing with were, going down to school there. So it was something I started to hear about, and I ended up going to, I think back then it was the Reebok Top 100 camp that Brody Merrill and company kind of put on. I think at that point it was at the Hershey Center, and I talked to, a couple teams, but they didn't really show much interest. And Coach Pat Tracy, who's moved on from High Point now, he's up at a high school in Baltimore, but he showed a lot of belief in me, and it was kind of something that caught me off guard. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of this school, but North Carolina sounds okay. So it was, I went down on my visit, and he said, you just got to get down here. You just got to see what we're doing. And, ultimately went down on the visit there. And the campus is just breathtaking. It's something that it's hard to kind of put into words what it's like to walk around there. It's, I think the best way to describe it that I've heard before is kind of a Disneyland country club hybrid. It's, it's just a stunning place. And when I got there, there was I think 13 or so guys that were practicing every day. And this was before the team even started. It was guys that took a leap of faith to go lay that foundation, and the things that they were going through, this military type training, and just putting in the hard work every day. And the foundation then was to get better at something every day. And then the program would catch up to the effort you were putting in. And I think, for me, that kind of laid the foundation. I think that I didn't realize until maybe the last couple of years. I think, as any kind of Canadian player can touch on, you're used to, being, a good scorer or, a good defensive player for a lot of the time. And you see these guys that work so hard every day, and, for 4 years, they may not touch the field, but they're still positive, and they're still pushing everyone else forward for the greater good of the group. And I think that was, again, that self-reflection you talked about there. Part of that was me realizing and talking to a lot of those guys that had been through it in university, and kind of pushing that forward into, what happened the last couple of years for me in the NLL, and just understanding that you can't be selfish in a team sport. There's no time for that, no matter what your role is. If it's, to be the best practice player, to prepare the guys for games, or to be the eye in the sky and talk to guys at halftime and what you're seeing. So it's, I think that I wouldn't be the person I am without Coach Torpy and the High Point family. And, for them to take a chance on me with really only, seeing a weekend's worth of game is something that, I'll be forever grateful for.
Yeah. Speaking with Dan Lomas, it's interesting, man. Like I went through that a little bit as well in my time with school. And I don't think a lot of people really realize what that's like for guys that, Canadians coming down to school and kind of stepping into the lineup. That happens, but there's literally 10, 15 guys on every lacrosse team, whether it's Div 1 or Div 3 throughout that country, that will never see significant playing time, if any, and they're still the best teammate, best guys that you're ever going to meet. It's incredible the attitude that those guys have and how happy they are just to be a part of a program like that. So I think that kind of goes understated, and that's not something people really even think about or see, but unless you've kind of been a part of something like that, you wouldn't really understand it. So I hopefully I did a better job of that. As we speak with Dan Lomas here, and I asked Holden this. I asked him why he wears the number that he does. I want to ask you, Dan, being a Canadian, I don't know if you're born and raised in Burlington or not, but do you have the typical Canadian boy story? It was hockey in the winter, lacrosse in the summer, a stick at a young age, or how did the game find you?
Yeah, for me, my dad grew up, doing hockey and lacrosse, and it was always kind of, our family looked at as lacrosse was a great way to stay in shape in the hockey off season. And, both my older brothers, went the hockey route and played, 4 and 5 years in the OHL, and went on to play, CIS hockey as well. And for me, hockey was always amazing because I got to be a bit of a different player. It was more of a physical game for me, and kind of, doing the easy things and being more of a fourth line guy, which I had a lot of fun with. But ultimately I fell in love with lacrosse because something about it felt different. It was, my brothers would get, excited when hockey season would come around. And for me, it was kind of the opposite. You get a little bit more excited when lacrosse came around. So I started playing when I was 3 years old, just pushing the ball around with, playing peanut or whatever it may have been. And I think there was some, we joke about it in our family. I think I was 5 or 6 years old, and we had just played in like a house league final, and I was interviewed on TV, and I'm sure putting a 5 or 6 year old on TV, you're always going to get some funny lines, I think. But
Yes.
they
find that footage, Dan. Find that footage.
I know I should, but they asked me what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do next, and I said I wanted to be a tennis player. So they
which in today's world would actually be pretty good for a Canadian.
I think
be right in the wheelhouse.
My parents, I could have been Milos Raonic or something running around there.
Yeah.
So, but no, they like to give me a hard time about that. But no, I think for us, our family. It's just always been a part of kind of who we've been, and obviously, I don't think parents get thanked enough for the sacrifice they put forward, and I don't think you fully understand it. And until you step in, even right now, trying to balance a career and playing lacrosse, I can't imagine trying to balance dropping kids off at the right spot, waking up at 5 a.m. and doing all the things that they did while balancing their lives as well. So obviously, that part of it, you're forever indebted to them for doing that. But I think that they know that, the sports just develops you into, gives you all the qualities as a person to be successful overall.
You better get your parents tuned into the podcast then after that.
Exactly. That's it. I think they don't know that's coming, but I was doing a little bit of sucking up. That's good.
Yeah. Going back to the weekend here, interesting game in that it's the thing we kind of started to see from the Riptide, where you start to get down and all of a sudden the other team, I don't know, the combination of you guys get sparked and the other team starts to coast and you guys get back in it. I don't think anybody had Danny Mac in the OT pool. If you did, you probably made a ton of money. But to take us through a couple things here. One, you seem to have found the long shot late in the game and finally got something working for you to get you back into it. But also the last possession, you guys didn't have a timeout. Was there a game plan going in, was there a plan going into that last possession when you really didn't have a chance to come up with one?
Yeah, well, I think the first part with Danny Mac, you can't speak enough about that guy and who he is and what he offers a team is again, it's hard to put into words to, as a first year team, having a captain that's just come off playing, putting in 9 hard years and finally getting, the championship that, in my opinion, he's deserved for a long time. He's one of the greatest leaders you can ask for. He gets that team, he gets that group going, and when you're 0-5 and you lose 5 games in a row and to come back into the dressing room after all those losses, it's sometimes I think it can get a little bit hard to hear the same message over and over, but he has a way of, just toning that message and letting us know that, every time we're getting better, and it's a process that we've got to commit to. So it's, I think I humbly would have picked him for the overtime challenge. I don't want to brag on that one, but it's, again, a guy that just embodies everything we want to be as a team moving forward. And, as far as he said, kind of hitting those shots, it's, we've talked about it as a group. We're kind of put together of a bunch of guys that really there's no superstars in this group. So it's, it doesn't matter to us who's going to hit their shots when they hit it. It's just as long as we're all, kind of getting to those greasy areas, pushing bodies around and really trusting what Coach Marsh is putting forward for us. And again, it's something we've stuck to as a group. And there may be one quarter, like, the first half where, Kieran McCardle goes out and he gets a hat trick for us after being a healthy scratch the game before. And I think that something like that, it really just shows you who we are as a group. That's for him to step into that, into a game after, like I said, not playing and to do that just shows how good of a professional he is, to take that in stride. So again, for us, it doesn't matter who's hitting those shots or how they're going in. It's just finding a way to get it done.
Basement Dan Nation is alive and well. Mega beds for everybody, Dan Lomas. Hey, thanks for doing this, man. Best of luck this weekend against the Wings and the Seals. Just so you know, I took you guys to beat the Seals. Evan is picking against you, so you can prove him wrong this weekend, if you please.
Saying that I was ready to flip a coin.
Yeah. Regardless, good luck this weekend. Thanks for doing this, Dan, and let's do it again, man. That was fun.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate your time and appreciate what you guys are doing for the sport. Keep it up.
All right. That was Dan Lomas of your New York Riptide, Evan. And, a couple stops, like you said, pretty decent year there in Rochester in his first year, then kind of fell out of favor there in Vancouver, but a nice bounce back and good opportunity there in New York to show what he can do, and he's playing well.
And he's one of these guys that if there was an expansion, would he still be in the league? Maybe not. But that's the thing, is that with expansion, these guys are getting this second chance and proving themselves. And, sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a second chance and find the right home to show what you can do. And I think Dan Lomas is doing that right now for the Riptide. They'll take on the Wings and the Seals this weekend. Okay, Evan. Let's get to break, and let's head for the fourth quarter here on Lacrosse Classified. Coming up in quarter number 4, under review, who you got in news and notes, and whatever else we can jam in. You got it right here on episode 63 of Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Pure Vita Labs is proud to bring you the highest quality sports supplements on the market. PVL products are 100% all-natural with no artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. And the entire line is also Informed Choice certified. We designed all our products with the athlete in mind. We look forward to being a part of your athletic achievements, helping you push the bar higher, win at the highest levels, and set personal records for years to come.
Hey, this is Brad Challoner, voice of the Vancouver Warriors. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Time now for Who You Got.
Welcome back, Lax Class, into the fourth quarter here. Final period of the day, class. You will be dismissed after this segment right here of Lax Class. Episode 63. Jake Elliott, Evan Sheminar with you, and right there, Pure Vita Labs, letting you know they have the best supplements on the market, all Informed Choice certified, nothing artificial in those supplements either. And listen, man, if Westberg, Curtis Dixon, Tyler Pace, Trevor Baptiste, Zach Currier, Callum Crawford, Justin Salt, Christian Del Bianco, Matt Kavanaugh, Zach Greer, Kevin Crowley, Challen Rogers, Chris Kluche, just to name a few, all
Kylie
on those,
O'Miller.
Yeah, Kylie O'Miller, Marnie McCool, and even Callum Robinson back there in Australia. All on PVL supplements, all sponsored by PVL, and those guys aren't taking those products unless they're good. So check them out, pvl.com. We're hoping at the start of next month we're going to hook back up with these guys and get you into their online store shopping using a promo code courtesy of Lacrosse Classified. Everybody will be in on this. It's going to be a good thing, and it's going to take your game to the next level as well. So,
what I was going to say is Vasily has been using the Game Aid, and
that's what most of the guys really seem to like the best, the Game Aid.
Yeah, and what I've noticed, and you don't have to use much of it. It's very little of it you actually have to put in there, but in the second half of a game, he has a lot more energy to keep going, pushing through that second half of the game than when he's not on it. It's noticeable.
Huh. Interesting. Well, all you can do is go to PVL.com.
And that's a 9-year-old. You can notice it.
Wow.
Right?
All right. Okay, Evan, I think, what do we want to do here? We want to go under review.
It's time for Under Review, presented by G. Wilson Construction. Each week, Jake and Evan answer a listener's question or break down an unusual call that happened in a game. The challenge flag has been thrown, so now it's time to take the matter under review.
Under review, you just heard it from G. Wilson Construction. I want to tell you about this. I'm going up to Whistler with the boss this weekend, so we're going to kind of hammer it out while we're up there and figure out exactly what we want to do here. But just looking on their website, Evan, G. Wilson Construction supports the apprenticeship training practice in British Columbia. So They have a wide range of skilled individuals working with them. If you love what you do, you take pride in your work, if craftsmanship is your goal, they want to see your resume. They want people who are passionate about building fine homes and excellent at providing best practices for client services. Whether you're just starting your career or you're a seasoned pro, there's opportunities available. Check out their website at gwilsonconstruction.com. And if you're, kind of thinking about starting a career or you're an experienced tradesman, get a hold of G. Wilson Construction. You may have yourself a new career in the construction business. So we'll figure that out as well. But we're going to go under review right now, Evan. And the announcement coming out, I want to say right after we posted Lacrosse Classified last week, the commissioner announcing that MGM Grand have signed a deal with the National Lacrosse League, and gambling is now going to be available for the National Lacrosse League. And you think, oh, great, okay, we can gamble. But with that being said, a lot of different factors now come into this, as we're going to get way better updated information about injuries, about schedules, about what else, Evan? All sorts of things. We're going to get these factors all coming together almost in real time.
Signings, everything like that has to be upfront, immediate.
Yeah. So, for example, in the NFL, they are mandated that they have a certain set of rules when they have to announce who their active roster is, who's questionable, who's day by day. They have to be transparent on what the injury is, how long the injury is going to be, who's signed, who's on the all these things I think are going to start to become public knowledge for the sole sake of being informed when betting on National Lacrosse League action.
Yeah, that's one factor that's in play here is the NFL, the only reason that you have an injury report and an injury report that's very open and honest to the public is because of gaming, because the gamblers have to have accurate, fair information, and you can't allow certain people with inside information to make bets that others can't. And
so for example, and I'll use Tom Brady as an example, even though I'm not a Patriots fan. Oh, forget it. I'm not going to use Tom Brady. I'll use Rusty Wilson, Evan, because I'm a Seahawks fan. So just imagine the Seahawks saying, well, Russell Wilson's not going to play this week against the Patriots. I'll use the Patriots. So Russ Wilson isn't going to play against the Patriots this week. So everybody goes, oh, no Russ Wilson for the Seahawks. I'm laying all my money down on the Patriots. And then Saturday before the game, the Seahawks come out and say, oh, actually, we were wrong. Russ Wilson is going to play tomorrow against the Patriots. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose because everybody's going to switch or want to change their bet, and the money line's going to change, and the point spread's going to change. So this is why we're going to have some transparency when all this gets set up.
Right, and it's the NLL has actually got the opposite problem. And that is, if somebody's banged up, you will not hear a word about it until I think they have till 3 hours before game time.
But I think that's a rule that's going to have to change, though, Evan.
Exactly, they're going to have to disclose this midweek, saying this player is probable, this player is doubtful, this player's out. They're going to have to be more transparent about it. And I mean, to be honest with you, the NLL hasn't updated their transaction wire in I don't know how long. So for the average fan, if you're expecting to see somebody play and they pull this, 3 hours before game time, we're making a switch, you're show up in your seat and it's like, well, where is this guy? Because that's how a lot of this works. So that's going to be off the table now. The one thing that I think you might have to take a step back on right now is how this gaming is working, and that is this BetMGM is only licensed in the state of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And to understand
but more
how
is
this
coming,
works,
though, Evan, right? More states are coming by the week almost.
Right, and MGM also has to go get licensed in each individual state, and that's a problem. I'm a part-time Vegas resident. I can sit in my home and I can make online bets at any Vegas casino, but because I'm in the state. If I'm outside the state, I can't do that. and in the U.S. they forbid. There's laws against any form of.
But it's all
offshore
changing,
gambling.
though, Evan. It's all changing.
So it's going to take some time to get more states licensed and whatnot. But here's the key as to why once this gets built up, it's going to be huge. And that is 80% of people who gamble on a game now start to watch it.
Sure they do.
And the thing is, these professional gamblers and even the casual gamblers all of a sudden see an NLL game on there.
And they go, this sport's actually pretty good.
Right. So now you're going to expand your viewer base. Let's be blunt. As much as the NFL has always had until a few years ago, the sense of we don't want any association with Las Vegas, believe me, they love Las Vegas. They loved all these
it's what makes that league go.
Pools and fantasy leagues. And all this was actually illegal for a long time.
Gambling is what makes the NFL the most popular sport or league in the world is gambling. That's what makes it the most popular league in the world is gambling for the NFL. And I'm not saying the NLL is going to be anywhere near that, and definitely not to start here. But to be the first professional league to step out and be the first league that's going to kind of endorse this, Evan, is a huge, huge deal for the National Lacrosse League.
Well, actually, they already did a few years ago with Sports Interaction. Now, the problem is you have to be in Canada to play Sports Interaction. But
this is something that they've hitched their wagon to, and they are all in on, and pardon the pun.
And if you want a TV deal, well, guess what? This is how you start to get a TV deal, because if the gambling gets large enough, there's going to be enough people watching it that now the vested interest is to have it on TV, not behind a paywall anymore.
Well, and who knows? If you have enough revenue coming from it, then the TV deal becomes even more attractive as well. And a couple of things that I don't really have clarification on, and I don't think you do either, Evan, is who exactly is going to be setting the lines or the number, if you will, for each respective games. Like, I imagine they have pro bookmakers at MGM, but do they have pro bookmakers that know a lick about lacrosse? And I know the new Sports Logic and the analytics are going to help in regards to making these lines and setting these lines. But I kind of wonder, like, if the getting is going to be good in the early going until they kind of figure out who's who and what's what and what's normal and what's not. Like, I don't know, man. Or do they go out and seek some professional help from, I don't know, say a guy like yourself, Evan, who's a math wizard and knows lacrosse, or maybe me, a guy that's been around for 30 years with the game and kind of knows. I don't know.
You couldn't because you work for a team. That would prohibit you. But
hey, if the money was right, Evan, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Now, Sports Interaction, how they handle it is that they cover the line on both ends so far that, if they make a mistake by 2 or 3 points, they still kind of got themselves covered. These places, the professional gamblers are not going to put up for that. They're going to have to be accurate. And yes, MGM would be very wise to start to hire a couple insiders to work with their line makers to get this right. So,
it's going to be really.
If somebody at MGM wants to hire me, hey, I got a place in Vegas. Good to go.
It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to kind of see how it all plays out. And the other thing is I don't know what the percentage is that, the board of governors, the league, and the players are all sharing a piece of the pie here. I don't know if this has been worked into the CBA or not on how all these percentages are going to work.
I actually had a conversation with the player on that, and that's what they're looking at. It's like, okay, what's in it for us? I don't know if the league is necessarily getting much, if anything.
Not yet.
They might get a little, but it will be very minimal. Now, whatever they get falls into the revenue sharing formula that the league and the players have. So the players will get something out of it, but the real attraction to this isn't how much is the league getting sponsored by MGM for this thing? It is, guess what? You're going to have more butts in the seats. You're going to have more eyes watching the game. The advertising revenues are going to start to go up, and that's how the players will get the money that they deserve.
Going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. That was G. Wilson Construction's under review, and we, like, I think we have like a stack of things now that we could take under review here, Evan. But keep your submissions coming. We always kind of look for kind of the buzz topic of the week or whatever you want to call it, Evan, and then kind of go with that. But if something else pops off the page at you that you think needs to be discussed, then we're more than happy to take that under consideration. But now, Evan, it's time for Who You Got. Evan, who you got?
Jake, who you got?
Who you got?
Who you got?
Who you got?
Who you got? Who ya got?
Who you got? Who you got? Sponsored by Stampede Tack and Western Wear. More than just cowboy boots there at Stampede Tack. They have a wide range of CSA-approved boots, enough to tackle any job site. Check them out in Cloverdale or online at stampede.ca, where shopping online is still shopping local. Once again, congratulations to Adam Levy and whoever he gives his prize to. Week 9, Evan, what do we got on Week 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games for week number 9.
Yeah.
You are now 22-13. I am 21-14 after a 4-4 week 8.
Yeah, and last week I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty confident in my picks. I went 4-4. This week I'm not confident in my picks, so I'm probably going to go 5-0.
Oh, you think so?
It's going to have the opposite.
You think so, do you? We'll see about that. Keep signing up for that weekly prize, folks. The more you play, the better your chance is to win that grand prize. I know I've talked to a few guys, they're kind of sitting on the fence. It literally takes 60 seconds to put in your email, make your picks, and hit send. And that way, the more weeks you do it, the better. Like, literally, even if you started now in week 9, and if you went hot for the rest of the season, you could still win the grand prize. So never mind just the weekly prize.
I'm the only one that sees the picks. So guess what? If you don't want your name out there, not a problem.
Yeah,
I'm
make
the only
up a
one that
fake
sees the names of
name,
picks.
whatever you want to do. Say, don't mention my name, make up a fake name. Like, there's a couple of guys that I have no idea who they're in there, right? I've only looked at the leaderboard once. You kind of send out an email to everybody updating what's going on in the standings. But if you don't want that, don't worry about it. Make up a fake name, and you got nothing to worry about. Still have some fun, win prizes, and get some bragging rights as well. Nothing to brag about last week, but this week, Evan, is a new week. Week 9, it all gets going on the 24th. So more Friday, Saturday, Sunday lacrosse. I love it. Friday night from Philadelphia. And this game got a whole lot more interesting all of a sudden. Riptide at the wings. Evan, who you got?
I appreciate the effort that the Riptide put in. I think teams will now start to take them a little more seriously. I think Philadelphia's got a great thing going. They won one lopsided. They almost had 2 this weekend. I'm taking the Wings.
I'm taking the Wings too. I think they are a much improved lacrosse team with Zach Higgins and I don't think the return of, Marambo's taking a step forward. Reardon's going to do his thing. Crowley there for the entire. The X factor for me has been Brett Hickey. And that offense just has taken it to another level with Hickey in their lineup. He is good for 3-4 a game scoring and then add in some assists as well. Like, he is playing some great lacrosse. You just hope the guy can stay healthy.
Well, now Trevor Baptiste, on top of winning 80% of his face-offs most nights, is now good for a goal or two.
Like I said, Evan,
it's a difference.
Like I said, if he can start to find a little scoring touch with all those chances that he gets, look out. Look out for Trevor Baptiste. PVL athlete, by the way. San Diego, another long... Man, how tough is this for San Diego? They might as well have just stayed back there, maybe, Evan. I don't know if they did or not.
I actually suggested that in my schedule article on Random Thoughts.
I think we remember when we were talking to Patrick Merrill about this. I think he said he is staying back there. I don't know if any of the
So
rest
he went to Orangeville's where he went.
Well, yeah, but it's still in the Eastern time zone. So anyways, Saturday, 7:30 Eastern time, San Diego Seals at the Riptide. So Riptide in Philly on Friday, at home on Saturday. This might be a tough one to call here, Evan. San Diego been struggling. Riptide getting that home win. Who you got?
No, this is all of a sudden a lot tougher because I was almost going to go to the adage of let's pick against the Riptide until they win. Well, now they won. San Diego's 3 time zones over. Desperate. Well, let's put it this way. If San Diego loses this game, it's season over. I'm taking the Seals.
I think I'm going to take the Riptide here, Evan. They got to win, like you said, and I said, until you win, I'm not picking you. And now they've won. And San Diego, I mean, they went to Halifax last week, and Halifax, obviously a better team than the Riptide, as far as I'm concerned. But they only got 5. Still no stops.
Yeah.
Jackson, I don't know. I'm going to take the Riptide, man. I'm taking the Riptide.
Well, here's what I will say is that every week in who you got so far in the contest, the Riptide have never had more than 10% of people picking them.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have 30 or 40% this week.
I'm not super confident in the pick, but I'm not unconfident. I know that's not even a word. I don't even care. I'm taking the Riptide, Evan. That's the way it is. Let's move along. Buffalo makes the trip. This is the game of the week, Evan. BR Live game of the week. And I think it might be the game of the week on paper as well. Buffalo at Colorado. 2 teams. Well, Colorado, 2 teams coming off a win here. Buffalo going to Colorado. Who you got?
Think about it. This could be a 6-5 game if these 2 goaltenders play the way we expect them to. I was about ready to flip a coin, but I'm like, you know what? I better come up with a rational pick on this one. I don't know what Bandits team I'm going to get. That's the thing. There's a little inconsistency there. I don't know what Mammoth team I'm going to get.
Man.
The one that lost to Vancouver, the one that bulldozed the Rush. It's in Denver. Give me the Mammoth.
Man.
I'm
just looking at the next 2 games.
I have no confidence in my picks this week because of this.
Yeah,
right?
I'm seriously, I'm looking at the next 2 games going, those 2 games might be harder than this one. And this one, I might. Man.
Flip a coin?
I'm thinking about it. I don't know who Colorado is yet. Like, I know what they are, but I don't. You know, are they the team that lost to Vancouver, or are they the team that beat Saskatchewan? I don't know about Georgia because they're on a losing skid. Like, man, I don't know who to pick in this one. I'm gonna take Colorado just because you did. I have no other reason to take Colorado, only because you did, and I don't want that to be. I'm not confident in either team. Not like that doesn't sound right either.
No,
I think either team could win this game, and I don't know who to pick, so I'm just going to pick who you pick.
This is a week the coin could beat me in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Honestly, we got 2 more games to go here, and I don't know who I'm picking in either of these games as well. 9:30 Eastern time start here. 5-0 Halifax goes into Calgary, who are coming off a loss at the hands of the Knighthawks. They'll get pace back, but they won't have King and Dobie still. But is Calgary going to lose again here on their home floor against the Halifax Thunderbirds? Evan, Thunderbirds, Roughnecks. Who you got?
I was about ready to flip a coin again here, but here's my thought on this, and that is, as much as the Thunderbirds are hot right now, they're due for a loss, and this is real big opportunity for a loss to happen to them. I'm going to take the Roughnecks, but once again, I'm not confident in this pick.
Old I'm starting to not believe in the due for a loss or due for a win theory. Like I think that's just something people say to try and convince themselves.
But if you had done it, you
would
have had Rochester, you would have had New York, you would have had a great week.
Due for a loss, due for a win. I'm taking Halifax, man. They haven't lost yet. So are they due for a loss, or are they due? They're 5-0, so they're due for another win because they've won 5 in a row.
Yeah, well, you can convince me on either team.
Taking Halifax. Georgia at New England to round it out on Sunday, 1 o'clock. Is that 1 o'clock Eastern, Evan? Sunday morning lacrosse here on the West Coast. Georgia at the Casino. Black Wolves and Swarm, Evan. Man, this is a tough game. Who you got?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I think this game is going to go a lot to show how this East Division is going to play out. Because think of it this way. We thought Georgia was going to cruise to not only the division title, the number 1 seed. And now they've lost these games here we just didn't expect them to. New England, nobody had them at a winless or a perfect season so far. So, how do you pick it? I just don't know who the Georgia Swarm are right now. I know who the New England Black Wolves are right now. So I'm taking the Black Wolves, but not confident in it.
Yeah. Like I just don't know if Georgia is losing 3 in a row. Like we picked this team to run away with the division, and now I kind of feel like this is a must win for the Swarm if they want to stay within striking distance here. Like they cannot let New England get away from them if they have hopes of winning the division. And they've lost 2 in a row, 1 to the Riptide, Colorado in there as well. Or is Georgia just not the team that everybody thought they were? I think I got to go with the Black Wolves here, Evan. I want to pick the Swarm because I think the Swarm could easily win this game. But similar to Halifax, I got to keep picking them until they lose. Because I think they're due for another win. So I'm taking the Black Wolves, Evan.
I don't blame you. And, how confident are you in the pick?
Not at all. No. And it's not because I'm not confident in New England. It's because I'm equally as confident in Georgia.
Yeah.
And that goes for Calgary and Halifax, and that goes for Buffalo and Colorado as well.
Like, honestly, this could be a week in who you got because the games are so tough to pick. We don't have anybody go 5-0.
Or we could have a bunch of people go 5-0 or 0-5. I don't know, man. Okay, so let's recap it here quickly. Yeah. We both took the Wings. I got the Riptide. You got the Seals. We both took the Mammoth. I got the T-Birds. You got the Roughnecks, and we both took the Black Wolves. All right. News and notes is how we finish each podcast every Tuesday here on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. We could use a sponsor for news and notes. If you're interested in joining the program and you want to talk a little turkey, get at me. Find me, social media, at PXP for Sports, or my email is at pxpforsports@gmail.com. Remove the at from before PXP for Sports. pxpforsports@gmail.com is where my email is, or if you got my phone number, Facebook, whatever. Get at me if you're interested in maybe hopping on board and becoming a sponsor here on the program. News and notes, 7, and we got some things to go over here quickly. We talked about gambling in the NLL. Via Rail, now the title sponsor of the Mann Cup in 2020 back east, wherever that is. That's a big get there for that committee. Via Rail, no, that's no small chicken there.
Well, I wonder if the players are going to take it just to save on some cost or something to get to the Mann Cup.
Maybe. Have you ever ridden on a train?
In Europe, but not in Canada.
It's lovely, man. It's lovely through the Rockies and Banff, just riding the rails, man. Pretty awesome. I've never done it, so I'm just talking out my butthole here. Billings signing in Buffalo. Pretty big news there for the Bandits, and 1-0 with GB.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I was surprised by it was Buffalo that picked him up of all teams, because we thought he had all these work commitments out west that prevented him from playing out there, but things must have changed. But with Buffalo not having all of its weapons that it used to, great pickup.
Cost him nothing.
Yeah. Now, if the Seals made him an offer at some point, I imagine they probably did, they get a compensatory pick. They'll get probably a first rounder next year.
I don't know if it's that high for Billings. Maybe.
Yeah, it could be.
Maybe. Second rounder, I think. Anyway, so Billings signs in Buffalo. Another signing that caught all over. Dylan Malloy, by the way, former Tewaaraton winner, playing both games for the Mammoth this weekend. Didn't produce much offensively, but didn't really look at a place either. But the one that really caught our eye just before we kind of came on
this is lovely.
recording here, and we've been banging this drum for a little while here, Evan, and I remember when he got drafted, and I went on LSN, and they asked, who do you think's going to be the biggest impact? I said, well, if this guy decides that he's going to play box lacrosse, I think this guy could be the biggest steal of the draft. In one, Miles Jones signing a practice roster contract with the New York Riptide, and hearing that they play 2 games this weekend, Evan, and Miles Jones could very well get into the lineup here for the Riptide.
Now, if you think back when we had Reggie Thorpe doing his season preview, we asked him about Jones because he had just traded for him at that point. He was part of the whole package there with Durston. And he said he was going to try and get Jones to come in this year. And apparently things have worked out. We didn't know if there was a sponsorship issue or what. Now, Jones has not played any box lacrosse to my knowledge, maybe a little bit. But here's the thing. If this guy can learn how the box game works, look out.
Yeah, scary.
We're trying to figure out where he fits in the lineup. He's probably going to be a two-way transition player, similar to what Kyle Matisse does in Philadelphia. But for those that don't know his game, think about Mike Messenger. This guy is just a tractor. You can run right through any defender if they try and take him one-on-one.
Shoots at 1,000 miles an hour. He's got athletic ability coming out his wazoo. This guy is a genetic freak. Look him up on YouTube, Miles Jones, Myles Jones. Went to Duke University, won a couple of championships there with the Blue Devils, and sponsored by Adidas. Plays in the PLL, and this guy, you want to talk, and the NLL is all about it right now, Evan, about personalities and guys showcasing their talents and their personality on social media. This guy is about as personable as you can get as far as a lacrosse player goes as well. He is a marketing machine waiting to happen. This is big for the Riptide. I'm almost willing to go through some struggles and growing pains and let him figure out the box game, even if it means him struggling a bit to start or whatever, just to get him going.
Or just to get butts in the seats. New York struggled to get attendance this year. You get another hometown guy like this with his following, you're going to get some more butts in the seats.
Absolutely. Something I noticed the last couple of Mammoth games, watching the game in Vancouver, then watching the replay screen in Saskatchewan while I was doing the game So, after a player scores a goal, they run the replay, and then they usually show the player on the bench that scored the goal after they show the replay. You know how they do that?
Yep.
So now I want you to watch, next time you watch a Mammoth game, the last few times I've seen them do it, and the players are almost looking up at the screen, waiting for their face to show up, and then they and I don't know why I started to know this, but I noticed this. They stick their tongue out, and they do the old tongue wag. You know what I'm saying? They do the and I've seen Killen do this. I've seen Gillis do this. I'm pretty sure I saw McLaughlin do that. I don't know if this is a Mammoth thing or if this is predetermined or not, but pay attention to this because I think it's becoming a phenomenon.
It's not the only one. Now, I don't know if a few people notice this. I know Devin Caney had put it out on Twitter. If you're watching a game in San Diego, look at the home bench. They got
the manscaping
interesting
thing.
Little manscaping
thing.
advertisement right underneath which, when you work with a marketing advertising agency, this is actually something that's a little ingenuitive and
pretty smart.
An attention grabber.
Pretty smart for sure. We talked about low-scoring games. There was a couple of records either tied or set as far as the scoring, and it was way down this week, and I promised I would make mention of that, Evan. So it was a bit of a wacky week as far as scoring goals in the National Lacrosse League, but I think it's an anomaly. It's not the norm. If this trend continues, then we'll see. But it's been down all year long, but I think it'll balance itself out as we move along.
I don't know if it will. I think...
You think this is the year of the goalie?
It's the year of the goalie, but there's a couple of factors in play here. One is that, we talked about it. I know the commissioner doesn't believe it's going to happen, but with expansion, rosters are going to get watered down. There's less quality forwards available on every team.
But that would mean there's less quality goaltenders too, Evan, and the goals will be going in these. So I'm not buying into that.
But have the defenses started to figure things out a little better?
I think maybe that may be true, but that's just a matter of the offense now figuring out what the defense. It's the constant evolution of the game. Like, it's gone from what we saw three lines playing both ends of the floor to specialized offense, defense, to playing man-to-man, to a hybrid zone, to turning players down the outside. All these new things, eventually offensive coaches will find an answer to it, and then the defense will find an answer, and it just goes back and forth. So maybe the D and the goalies have the upper hand right now, but I think it'll all even. We'll see, but I it's a bit of an anomaly. I don't think it's the norm, so that's where I'm going with that. Back-to-back penalty shots last night in Philadelphia. That might be the first time I've ever seen that.
I've seen it before. I was trying to think back as to where I've seen it. I think I actually saw 3. But, yeah, so for those that are trying to figure out what happened here, the NLL has a rule, which I wish hockey would adopt because it's a better rule, in that if you are 3 men down, rather than what hockey does and what the CLA does, which is you're 2 men down and the third penalty doesn't start till the first one's over with, the third one or any subsequent one becomes a penalty shot. Now, what happened in this particular scenario is that
they took 2.
Rochester's already down 2 men, and they were down 2 men and only had about 30 seconds off each penalty, and then 2 roughing penalties on the same whistle. So now 4 penalties. The 2 guys in the box come out. The 2 guys that just took the penalties go in, and 2 penalty shots. And
interestingly enough, the two different players took 2 different penalty shots as well. And was it Crowley that took the first one and he scored?
He scored, and then Matisse missed.
He came close, but why not just give it to the Cat again?
But you know what? Part of it is at that stage the game was starting to get in their control. So why not give a couple of guys a shot at it and try and figure out who's going to take these shots when you actually need them.
Yeah, fair enough. Couple more news and notes here before we let you go on episode 63. Just kind of saw this come across my timeline on Facebook. The ALL Women's League. Evan, did you know about this?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so similar to the men's league, I'm assuming, the ALL, which is kind of the feeder farm league back east for some National Lacrosse League teams. It looks, I think this, I want to say they're going into their third. I had no idea. The ALL Women's League back in action for another year, which I think is just awesome. Like, I need more of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talked back at the World Championships as to when do the women get their own box championship, right? And there's still a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of countries, to be frankly honest, around the world that don't have women's programs.
Yeah, like it would be 50-0 Canada if they did it right now.
Right. Yeah.
I think it'll come, and this will surely help leagues like this starting up and staying around. I think BC really needs to. I know they have the Extreme Lacrosse League, and it's not quite on the scale, or not even close to the scale of what the ALL is back east. But I think that might be kind of an avenue that BC and Alberta need to explore, having a comparable league to the ALL, whether it's the Extreme Lacrosse League or something else. to have that going during the wintertime coinciding with National Lacrosse League, so guys are fresh and ready to go and able to step into a National Lacrosse League roster should their number get called, instead of, just being able to train on their own and working out and whatever. They need to figure that out here on the West Coast and have an avenue for guys to keep in shape and be ready to go should they get the tap. But that next level of player from the National Lacrosse League. The last thing I want to mention here on Lacrosse Classified, and it's a bit of a sad note, and it's former Vancouver Stealth, former New Westminster Sandbelly, Cliff Smith, who is a firefighter here in Vancouver and a guy I got to know pretty well with my time with the Vancouver Stealth and watching him play in the summer and coaching against him way back when as well. His father, Neil Smith, passing away, and he was a decorated first responder as well. And just talking with Dan Richardson a little bit earlier today, saying, the Firefighters Hall, just like it was for Sowen Gill's celebration of life, absolutely packed upstairs and downstairs. And I just sent Cliff a quick text saying that I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but my heartfelt condolences. And he sent me a nice message back saying that Neil, I never really got a chance to meet Neil, but he was a huge fan of mine, which I had no idea about. So I don't know how Cliff found the strength in him to kind of turn that around and give me a compliment. But for everybody that knew Neil Smith and what he was, Dan saying he was a unreal father, grandfather, and a great dad as well. So he's going to be sorely missed, and I know a lot of people are kind of hurting today with the loss of Neil Smith. So I want to mention that for my buddy Cliff and for everybody that knew Neil. And with that, I think we are done here on Lacrosse Classified for episode 63. Two great conversations with Dan Lomas and Holden Cattoni. And, of course, big thanks goes out to our fine sponsors here on Lacrosse Classified, the Vancouver Warriors, Pure Vital Labs, Associated Labels and Packaging, G. Wilson Construction, Stampede Tack, and Western Wear. Make sure you are subscribing to the podcast, people. Don't forget to sign up for Who You Got each week as well. Give Evan a follow at Shemlax. Get those numbers up for Evan. He's always complaining about it. You can follow me at PXB for Sports. The show is at LaxClass on Twitter, at Lacrosse Classified on the old Instagram as well. And now, episode 63 is over. For Evan Schemenauer, I've been Jake Elliott, and for the fastest game on 2 feet, and for the creator, enjoy the games, everybody.